There's independent organizations that I'm pretty sure industry, etc., go to see where are the areas that will welcome new businesses. The Milken Institute is one of these organizations. What are you doing to influence them? Because they're the ones that are going to bring stuff into this area.
As I took your question, Ms. Rebecca, from a policy perspective, how are we sort of with Milken, and I would presume Brookings falls into a similar category to what you're talking about, as well as the Center for American Progress. One of the roles that we all play is to be able to be on the forefront of what those organizations are doing and being engaged as community leaders and sort of understanding at the 30,000-foot view what's going on. And so, I know for my part, Nortec's involved in a Brookings study here to look at, and it's in partnership with Magnet and other organizations, but they're the lead, and Stark County as well, to take 50 supply chain companies and transition them to OEMs and do a really focused effort on that. So that's a Brookings study that we're working on. And there's a Center for American Progress on energy and sort of bottom-up innovation on energy. So we try to stay very at the pulse, and not only very at the pulse, but engaged in those studies to help drive what that policy looks like, because the administration in D.C. and state administration as well look at some of those leaders for how they're developing their own policies. So it's important to do that.
I think while we were not engaged in this, BioOhio, which is the industry trade group for the biomedical industry, was heavily involved in sharing information about the business environment in Ohio with a group called Business Facilities Magazine. And Business Facilities Magazine is one of those magazines that does annual rankings for states based on their climate for doing business in all different types of industries. For the last 2 years, Ohio has ranked number 4 in the country for a place to grow your biomedical business. And it's in no short part due to the third frontier. It's the overall business environment, but in large part, the third frontier and what it's able to do to support the growth of businesses distinguishes Ohio compared to other states.
Let me just ask you one thing. Why, on March the 11th, weren't you down in Akron to hear the individual, you were, from the Milken Institute?
Yeah. No, I was at the presentation. I was not able to stay for dinner. So, there you go.
He didn't eat.
Yeah. Yep.
I had a scheduling conflict, but I was engaged and understood what was going on, and we're in discussions and got the materials. So
I was at dinner. It was a good dinner. There are a lot of good and lofty ideas, but this is a political campaign. And could someone speak to that? How much funding are you getting? I mean, there's no organized opposition, but you have to convince voters to check the correct box on this. And also, because it's a political campaign, have you done polling, and what kind of information has that given you? Both not only in terms of winning and losing, but where your strengths are among the electorate.
Well, I'll start. And first of all, one of the reasons why we wanted to be on the ballot in May, and actually asked the General Assembly to consider putting it on the ballot in May, was that we thought this was a time when we could have a conversation with the voters that would be a little bit less cluttered than the other opportunities that are around us. You may remember last November there was this issue that that was pretty hot, and spending lots and lots of money on television and in the other forms of media. And of course this November we'll have all of our statewide offices and governor's race and U.S. Senate race and congressional races. So this is an opportune moment to have a conversation with voters about an issue like this. And of course we thank the City Club for giving us a chance to do that. And there is support, financial support coming from the business community, from foundations and other organizations, and of course colleges and universities and research institutions that understand this and want to help us communicate it. But candidly, relative to the campaigns that people see, on television, this will be a modestly funded effort, and which is why, again, we've got to spread the word, and we've got to we've got to talk to people as much as we can. With respect to the polling, it's really quite straightforward. Some of you know I'm a reformed politician, so I've been involved in a few political campaigns in my career, and very often the polling doesn't give you much of a clue about what to do. You spend a lot of money on polling, and then you look at it and say, now what? This actually tells us quite a lot. And what it tells us is that the initiatives that you've heard described here today are very much what the voters want the state to do. They understand fundamentally that our economy is changing and that we have to keep up with it. And they're willing to support the efforts that, as Baiju pointed out, are non-political, are based on expert review, that have private sector investment, that are bipartisan, that are not new taxes, but rather are repaid by the benefits of the program. So these things voters support. The challenge is, and again we heard it from one of our earlier questions, is simply making sure voters know that's what this is. Right. So we really start. We really just have to talk to voters. The polling is very clear that if voters understand what issue 1 is, that it should have strong support, and we should expect strong support at the ballot box. But that if they don't know what it is, then voters, often confused or just uncertain, can either leave it blank or vote no. And so this is really about getting the word out and making sure people understand that these businesses being created in Fairfax. I know we're teasing Vickie a lot, but the truth is that they see these new companies growing up. You drive around Cleveland, you can't help but see the incubators, the new startup businesses, the excitement. But they have to relate that to issue 1. Issue 1 is what supports it. Issue 1 is what is what continues it. If you like what you're seeing in terms of the growth of new businesses and industries in Northeast Ohio, support issue 1 so we can continue it.
And just to highlight onto that is that the campaign is doing some things on a statewide basis, and obviously funding TV ads and all of these things, and also targeting the people they know vote. Because I don't have the political history like Eric, but I have been told that people that vote in primaries are sort of a pretty specific set of people, and so they can target those. What I see our roles and all of the roles of the people in the audience as supporters of issue 1 and of reauthorization of Third Frontier is to the grassroots. I mean, it's incumbent upon all of us to have signs up, to be talking to our employees, to make sure that people are educated, for the companies in the audience, that our company is successful because of Third Frontier money, for the universities in the audience to make sure they're communicating with their staffs and their students, to make sure that we can get more people to the polls than just that set of voters that typically votes in the primary. So I think the message from the campaign, and I know our organizations have taken it very seriously and are trying to make sure that the companies have, is that this is not a campaign-driven message. This is a grassroots level message. It's us, the people that see the need for it or have benefited from it, to take the reins and make sure that those people are getting out to vote. And just as a FYI to that end, Nortec is the main distribution for all of Northeast Ohio for materials. So if you are finding yourselves wanting any posters or pamphlets for any events that you have and things, we'd be happy to facilitate you getting those.